G'day everyone, Dan here from Edge Small Business Consulting. I've got Darren Reilly here from IOOF Insurance. How you going, Darren?
Really good, Dan. Thanks for the opportunity to jump in.
That's okay. Darren, look, as we chatted about, I just want to run through three quick questions regarding some insurance for obviously a lot of our small business owners out there. So I'm just going to ask three questions of you, and we'll just get some information if that's okay.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, perfect. We'll get started. So the first one is, how important is it for businesses to firstly have insurance, and how often should they look to, I guess, review that business insurance?
Sure. Yeah, good question. I guess I'll answer it two ways if I could. Firstly, for startups. Startups are obviously, we're very cost sensitive. Everything is an outlay. There's no income coming in at the moment. So the priorities are obviously to make sure you have certain covers. Public liability, if you're giving advice, whether you're a bookkeeper, a vet, you need to have professional indemnity. If you're a tradie, you definitely have to have public liability. And then it's questionable as to, do you insure your tools? We know at the moment there's lots of burglaries from job sites, especially if you leave equipment even locked up on job sites overnight, they're getting broken into. So it is really important to at least understand what it is you can insure and work out what are the priorities, what are the must-haves versus what are the things that I'll take in 6 months' time, 12 months' time. I guess for the more established businesses, how often do you look at your insurances? I must say at the moment, it must be at least every 12 months. Things change. If your business is to do with some form of manufacturing, importing, you need to talk to your insurance broker or talk to your insurer about what it is you're doing. If you're exporting, where are you going? Where is your products going? If you're selling online, that could be anywhere in the world these days. So it's really important to make sure your liability covers are up to date. If you have any large assets, we know the cost of either building or machinery is going through the roof. Again, I understand everyone's cost sensitive from a premium point of view, but it's really important to make sure you've got those big ticket items that create your income insured correctly. So minimum every 12 months. If you're changing your business partway through the year, it might be putting on some additional staff. It might be using a new manufacturing a new product. Make sure you see if that's covered under your existing program.
Yeah, so a lot of our clients, what we tend to get is they might get another couple of employees, or looking to expand in a new location and other items like that. So what you're saying is, if any of those events happen, depending on obviously your insurance policy, there's no harm in obviously giving either your broker or reassessing your insurance at that time.
Absolutely. You want to make sure that how you're growing your business is covered. 9 out of 10 times it will be, but you need to make sure you're talking to someone about it.
Okay, perfect. No, that's great. Thanks, Darren. The next one that I wanted to just ask was, especially with business startups, cost is obviously a big factor. So
Sure.
what's the main difference between getting, say, an online policy, off-the-shelf policy, versus coming to, say, a broker like yourself to get their insurance done?
Yeah, look, a bit of a loaded question because I'm an insurance broker. But the reality is, if I'm getting a cabinet made at home, I can't do that myself. I go to a cabinet maker.
Mm-hmm.
If I need my tax done, I go to an accountant. If I'm going to design a new fancy pen, I go to the right people to help me do that. I'm really good at what I do, and you're really good at what you do. The tradie's really good at what they do, and that's why they do what they do. So it's like anything. If you're buying something online, do you really know what you're getting? Public liability is a nightmare. Do you understand if you're involved in anything where you're doing some digging to lay some cables or some pipes? You actually have to make sure and get confirmation that there's nothing underground that you're going to cut up. Optic fiber cables, you cut them, you're up for quite a lot of money, and we're talking $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 to repair them, and that's your cost. So I guess it's just a matter of if you talk to someone who knows insurance and works and plays in insurance, you're going to get the right advice. Where you go online, are you getting the right endorsements? Are you getting the right covers? It's not all about premium. It's about making sure that your business is right. That's how you protect your house, and that's how you protect your family's assets.
So would it be sort of right in saying it is a little bit industry specific in terms of what you do, to how important it is to either go with the broker versus online? So as an example, let's say a personal trainer or someone that's a bit of a very small business, sole trader, say maybe like a bookkeeper or something around that. The risk is reasonably less. There's a few less moving parts, so online might be a better not a better option, but an option, as opposed to a tradie or someone with a lot more moving parts, where it's better to get that personalized advice, so then you make sure that every single bit of it's covered.
It is because our role is not just to talk about the questions you ask. So if a client calls in and says, I need public liability, we certainly talk them through that, find out what it is, where they're working, what are the exposures, but we also talk about the other options available to them. Again, it doesn't mean they have to take it, but it means they can make an educated decision on what they need for their business. So I guess it's just, if you go online for public liability, you know what you're going to get, but you don't know what endorsements you should have on there. For an example, an electrician has a different endorsement if they're operating in Queensland than if they're operating in New South Wales, but they have to be added onto the policy. A plumber, most of them do gas work these days. That's not automatically covered. So again, it's just talking to someone about what you do to make sure that when you click the button, you get the right cover. But for us, it's talking about all the options available, not just the question that's asked.
Well, that's the thing. You don't know what you don't know. And the old insurance saying, everything's fine until it's not.
That's the one.
Usually that's the tricky part with all insurances is you're not going to know how good the policy is until it's tested.
Correct.
So no, that's great advice. Thanks, Darren. The last one I just wanted to cover off on was obviously cyber attacks is a massive thing in the media at the moment. It's been doing the rounds on a lot of big companies.
Sure.
However, we've spoken about this obviously off camera. It is still an issue for businesses, small businesses even, that this can happen. What types of things should businesses be looking at when it comes to sort of protecting their business around cyber cover?
Yeah. So the first question so our role as a broker, we have to raise this with every client. And the initial comment we hear is, we're not big enough. It's only us. Why are they going to come after us? How would they know who we are? Because we're not an Optus. We're not a Medibank. We're none of those. But the reality is the small businesses are getting hit every day. And no one intentionally clicks a link. No one intentionally does anything to cause the business harm. Your employees certainly don't want to do it. But what we find is it's the one when everyone's busy, halfway through the day. If I was to get an email from Dan, I go, geez, that's from Dan. I better open that quickly without looking to see, well, they've actually spelt Dan with 3 N's. So I open it up, and that's created the problem. And again, they are after small business. They're after small businesses because we're busy. And 9 out of 10 times, we don't have the world's greatest protection. We don't have a bank of employees who are looking after our IT. So they are trying to get everyone. When you get a cyber attack, they're only after money. So for the small businesses, and a couple of our clients have had these, we're seeing ransom requests for $4,000, $10,000. And the reason they're as low as that is because most businesses can pay that. They're not going to ask our business for $1 million because they know it's not practical.
Yes.
And So they ask for the smaller amounts, and that way there's a chance that they'll get it. And there is sort of some sort of honor amongst thieves, because they then do sort of release your information. But it's the whole process that you have to go through. The insurance policy in Australia, they're allowed to pay the ransom on your behalf, but it's what else is damaged. You don't know how far they've dived down into your computer. You don't know whether they've accessed your own payroll, other people's private personal information. And that is the key. And if we look in the last 12 months, the big attacks that have been on the front page of the paper and all through the TV, it's the why didn't those businesses advise their clients quick enough? So how do you do that? Well, the insurer actually does that with you. So you've got a lawyer who's involved in only this sort of work that comes in and works with you to identify how do we tell your clients that there's been a privacy breach. Because if you get the wording wrong, you're going to lose face with all your clients and they will go elsewhere. The other part of it is they do need to identify how far down in their system they've got to see where they've been in your system. And the insurance policy also provides for IT people to come in and do that. Now, it's different IT people to your normal people you would use, and it's no disrespect to them, but these are businesses that purely deal with cyber fraud and attack. The other way we're seeing businesses affected is the actual theft of email trails. And what I mean by that is you and I are emailing each other, Dan. I'm going to go buy a new vehicle. You're my financier. It's all sort of approved. I get the phone call from the dealership to say we're good to go. I call you up and say, I email you and say, hey, can you transfer the money? That email gets stolen between you and I. What they're doing is they're altering the payment details to themselves. As far as you're concerned, it's all above board and the payment gets made. I go to pick up my new vehicle. There's no payment made. The theft of emails is happening every day, and they're very good at what they do, but they know when to do it. And again, it's having the whole email trail as far as that goes. So one thing business can do to avoid that, and most offices are now doing this, is before you go to pay anything or release cash to someone, pick up the phone and say, hi, Dan, it's Darren. Just double checking, received your email. Thanks for that. We're just confirming it's okay to go. And you can actually make light of it and say, we just want to make sure that there's no fraud, no hackers playing on us. And everyone respects that because everyone's aware of it. When you do that, use the phone number in your system. Don't use the phone number from the email, because what they're doing is they're changing the phone number to them. So look, again, it's not big business that's affected by this only. It's all of us. And it's quite terrifying. You walk in on a Monday morning and your system's gone, and it actually turns out black. That you turn it on, there's nothing. There's a 1-800 number to call, and that's effectively the cyber fraud people, the hackers, and they will help you set up a Bitcoin account so you can pay the ransom. Again, that's all they're after. But it's the damage to your reputation to your business.
So from an insurer's point of view, in terms of businesses and getting that extra insurance, obviously the first step is to contact their broker and whoever their insurer is, and go, hey, these are my concerns. Can we set up a cyber policy? And in terms of dot point, what type? So that obviously covers them for, in some cases, for the ransom, the costs associated with correcting some of those type errors. What other things that sort of cover for the policy typically?
Yeah, so effectively it'll come in if some money's been stolen from within the system. It can pick that up for you. There's 4 different levels of cover you can take. and normally you'll get a quote on all four, work out what's important and what's relevant. The big one is knowing what to do. And that's what we find with cyber claims. What do you do? Who do you turn to? How do you access your system? Unfortunately, all our information's on there. Your diary for the day's on there. So what the insurer wants to understand is what sort of system you're using. They will normally get a small proposal done. Don't be too scared of that, because they actually have an answer on there unknown, which is pretty unusual. But let's be honest, we're not IT people. In some cases, your IT person can fill it out for you. They're just trying to understand what sort of security is there. Do you have firewalls? Are you transferring funds? If you're transferring funds over $5,000, do you need two people to accept it? They just want to understand how the IT system and how you manage your business, and then all the insurers are prepared to quote. The premiums are not horribly high. In saying that, it's another on cost. It's another expense in that insurance line that just seems to get bigger and bigger. But when you think of the damage and the reputational damage to your business, it's unfortunately these days it's becoming a must.
No, look, I in speaking with Darren probably about 6 months ago, we've recently taken out cyber cover for our business, and you know, it's a great peace of mind now that I know that if something does happen, that we at least have some help when that does happen. In terms of my business, we work quite a bit remotely, so it also helps protect from that. And with that being more the case, where everyone's using different computers over different internet servers and things like that, it's really important. So no, that's great advice, Darren. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Excellent.
No, perfect. So, all right, well, thank you very much. I'll leave all Darren's details in the post. If you do have any questions for Darren, please feel free to ask. Otherwise, I hope everyone has a great day. Thanks very much.
See you then. See you, everyone.
Thanks.